Hello. Welcome everybody to another funky marketing show episode. As you know, this is the show where I'm hosting different professionals, entrepreneurs, marketers, or just good people working for good people or for themselves. People that they are doing some things differently. It doesn't have to be good or bad, but they are doing things differently and making a difference. So one of them is someone that is joining me today. His name is Mark Evans. We already had a chance to talk. I was a guest on his podcast, and no, he's just somebody that I keep seeing all the time on LinkedIn, on Twitter, and he's doing lots of stuff. So, fractional CMO, consultant, strategist, somebody that that I looking forward to talking with because I'm always the guy that has a team and I don't do things on my own, but Mark is doing things differently. I want to get his thoughts about the way he's doing things. So, Mark, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Nemanja. It's a pleasure to be here.
How are you today? We didn't have a chance to catch up on these little things.
I'm pretty good. As you know, I live in Toronto, Canada. It's situations here is starting to get better. So I'm actually going to have coffee with someone tomorrow in person, which is a big deal because I haven't done that much over the last 18 months. So I feel like, we're entering a new exciting phase of running businesses and doing business.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like here we have the measurements, but like it seems like nobody is respecting them. So we went over 10,000 people a day. With COVID, then it's around 2,000. But I think that I don't know now it's fifth or sixth wave come to us a bit earlier than the rest of the world, and it's kind of like nothing makes sense because like now we have like two measurements which are like nobody can if they don't have the certificate or didn't test for COVID cannot go to the cafes. It was after 10, now it's after 8, but like it doesn't change anything. Like
Yeah, it
until
is
8
really
they can go everywhere.
It is really interesting because last week I went to a B2B SaaS conference in Ottawa, which is the capital of Canada. There was more than 1,000 attendees. The pre-party and the post-party were packed. There was probably 250 to 300 people there. And there was this sense of enthusiasm. People were so excited to get together. It felt like a high school reunion where you haven't seen your friends in a long, long time. And when you get together, you're so stoked. And I think it's a sign that people are ready to get together again. There is obviously risk, but when you haven't seen people, you haven't collaborated in person for 18 months, there's pent up demand. And, in Canada, we've really moved quite slowly. So that was a big deal for a lot of people. And I think that live events like conferences and meetups are going to come back here in Canada.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's interesting to see how things are developing differently in different parts of the world, and how the governments are running things, how everything's changing. And I like to be honest, I think Europe is going in autocracy like big time. Not something that I like, but like uh, I mean, the world is definitely changing, and I like to take Bill Gates for granted. And he said it's all going away in spring, because now we have vaccines in not only, I mean, let's say the medicine for COVID in different forms and shapes. When it get distributed, we basically end up with it being the same as the season flu. So we'll see how it goes. Like
We'll see.
it sounds good, so I like to take him, for
Well, let's
granted.
all be optimists and look at the glass as half full as opposed to half empty. One of the things I find really interesting, and you and I are both experiencing this, is that the B2B marketing landscape over the last year and a half has been fantastic. I mean, companies are investing in marketing; they're doing really well. You and I are riding, the wave because it's good to be in the heart of the action, and I think that's the thing that I've been excited about. I mean, yes, COVID is a real issue and a real concern, but professionally speaking, the last year and a half has been the best I've ever done since I started consulting in 2008.
Yeah, and I think like all the situation with COVID and everything pushed everybody to digital and make them like being more brave and experimenting with different things, testing, and actually seeing, okay, these things that we were investing in, they actually don't work that well as we thought they are, right?
Right. Right. And your company has, from what I've seen, your company's done really well and you've grown. And I think it's been an exciting time for both of us.
Yeah, that definitely. And now we redesign a little bit, change the messaging a bit, and we are going, to see what's happening after. To be honest, I'm looking forward, to finding a product that I can build or alone with my team or with somebody else. So that kind of seems like the next thing that I want to do.
There are no lack of opportunities. And the thing that I find interesting is how the marketing landscape is changing. Because I think last year when COVID first hit, a lot of marketing teams were decimated. Marketers are easy people to get rid of. You want to keep your salespeople, you want to keep your devs, but marketers, well, we can just hire them later. And then when the market bounced back, a lot of companies recognized that they had to do marketing. So it was great for people who work for agencies or for freelancers like myself because we filled a gap. But the question now that I wonder about is, will companies start hiring in-house marketers? Will a lot of the freelancers that they use for agencies no longer be needed at all or as much? I, I think the jury's still out. I'm not sure whether companies have sort of adjusted how they operate their marketing departments. Maybe embracing a hybrid approach where you have some in-house people, many of them strategists and managers, and then you outsource a lot of your marketing activity to specialists who can get stuff done when you need them done. What's
Yeah,
your
this
take?
is this is exactly what I'm seeing. Like lots of our clients are asking us like, who can we hire? Like if they don't have anybody in marketing, they have like, who can we hire? Who can be the person? What is their profile? Like I look at this somebody who has experience in in both marketing and product, who can help them do different stuff a little bit and just start the processes and everything. But that person needs the help of an agency who has experience in that and to kind of help the things growing. And then like you want to keep if you talk about content, for example, you want to keep the pillars inside because you know the strategy, you know what you want to do and where you want to go, and then you can just outsource, for example, the distribution or scale up the creation part. It depending on where you are the strongest, where you need help the most. But it's definitely a hybrid solution. That's how I see it, because it's totally different with different companies, and owners that didn't do it yet now feel the need to have somebody there. And I also see that they're using marketing partners or somebody in house to kind of chat and consider them as consultants also about the hiring process, about how can they attract other people, improve employer branding, what it is employer branding in the first place, because like hiring becomes also the pain point of many companies.
Yeah, a couple of things to pick up on what you said. Most of my clients are B2B SaaS companies, less than $5 million in sales. They're doing a little bit of marketing. And I found that you need at least one marketer. You need somebody who's going to do direct things. I can be the quarterback, I can provide strategic guidance, but you need someone who's going to get stuff done. I think that's a key hire because they have to be tactical, but they have to be a little bit strategic. And it ties into what you said about content. Like I'm an ex-journalist and we can talk about that. Most of my marketing is very content driven, but I fundamentally believe that a lot of content has to be done in house. Like if you're not drinking the Kool-Aid, if you're not thinking about the company 24/7, if you don't understand the brand personality inside out, it's really hard to write content. Yes, you can find freelancers who can buy into your brand, but a lot of the best content happens when people are living and breathing the brand every day. So I think that's
Yes.
one thing that's going to be kept in house. A lot of stuff, SEO, SEM, content distribution, video can be outsourced. And as you say, it's the best of both worlds. Hybrid, I think, is the way that it's going to go.
Yeah, I was talking with Jay Desai a few episodes back, and he was kind of accepting the role when he's like a head of growth in the company, and he wants to try and do a lot of stuff on his own. So like creating content with Jarvis on any other AI tool, or or using different kind of tools to kind of make things happen. So that would be kind of an experiment to see, if he can do it. How are the things like in my experience? If you want to create like um, a bunch of content, you need at least two people. You need a strategy. Say you need somebody to handle the tools. If the one person can do it, who knows? But two can do it for sure. That's what I'm seeing and what we are doing.
Yeah, I mean, I believe that one of the key marketing roles in 2022 is going to be the director or vice president of content distribution, because there's so much content being created that collects dust. Like, you put a post on Twitter, you promote it on LinkedIn, and then nothing happens. It's not repurposed. You don't extract as much value as you can. And there's got to be somebody, whether it's a director or VP, whose job it is to extract as much content as possible. And I was talking to Ross Simmons recently, and he's a very well-known content marketer strategist. And he essentially said that most companies could create all the content they need within the first quarter or the first half of the year, and then focus the rest of the time just repurposing, recycling, reinventing, and become very efficient at content marketing. Interesting take on things.
Yeah. I mean, he's also talking about hiring a distribution person specifically to just do that. Also, like, listen, that's what we have done with Funky Marketing Top Voices. We basically interviewed 20 people. We created podcast episodes with them. Then we repurposed that for 6 months, something like that. But it's enough. Let's do something fresh to keep the team, going. So that's always an interesting thing. And distribution is something that companies miss because part of it needs to be done manually. And I think that's the problem. If they see, can we automate it? No, let's keep it. Let's leave it alone on the side for now. And then it goes, and basically, the marketing creates content and just does that. And they get tired of just creating content that goes nowhere. Nobody's consuming it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one of the interesting things about content, because I've played around with platforms that claim to automatically repackage a blog post
What's the experience with that?
mediocre at best.
Yeah.
I had huge expectations that it was going to be this super efficient tool, and it was okay. In some cases, it wasn't really good. I read an article this morning about how marketers can leverage AI to create content. In my experience, it's not there yet. AI is far from being an efficient tool to actually create content from scratch. It's great for optimizing content, for correcting grammar, for improving sentence structure, but I still think a lot of content in terms of its creation and distribution is very manual. I mean, there's lots of opportunities for smart entrepreneurs to, drive innovative solutions, but for the time being, it's a very manual process.
Yeah, for me it was also like mediocre experience, especially though like try a couple of those that when you publish article, they just send you, like visuals, those kind of things, and you can just post them on social media. Like most of them needed an edit. Visually they were getting better, but when it comes to extracting the right sentences, the right content, it's where it needs help. But when it comes to like we are using our team using Jarvis to write content, when you have somebody who's a strategist who can just use the tool to come up with the right outlines, knows have the keywords and everything they want to focus on, it's extremely easy to use it. And now they add more to it. They add SEO, they add Grammarly, they add different things, but still you need at least one more person to go and check out the facts, because it's a tool, and it needs to be somebody that knows about the topic. So you need to do your research. That part is still on you, so you can check out the facts, what the tool is giving you, and kind of optimize. You still need an editor to go after that and make a better structure.
Yeah, I mean, two tools that I do use, rely on regularly. One is Grammarly. For $10 a month,
We
it's a
all use it,
no-brainer
yeah.
in terms of fixing your grammar. Pay for the pro version, and the free version is great, but $10 for the pro version, especially for a content marketer. And the other one is something called WordTune. It's a Chrome plugin, and you can use it to restructure sentences. So as a writer, I'm always looking for ways to see things differently. And sometimes I accept the suggestions, sometimes not so much. But those are just two simple tools that can really improve your writing, and make it more user friendly, which is what it's all about.
Yeah, I mean, I can recommend you try Jarvis with what you have told me, because it has like sentence extender. It has uh, creative stories. Literally, like you give him one sentence. Let's say Nemanja and Mark are on the podcast talking about positioning in B2B industry, and it will give you the short dialogues, paragraphs that happen, during one day in the office or during our conversation. That part happened, and it's like looking through the window and there's a dialogue.
Right.
For inspiration for those kind of stuff, that have really great templates. And now you can use different kind of voices, like I don't know, they have even transformers, they have Gary V, all different kind of stuff, so you can just play around with it. And basically it's for me, I like to write my own stuff, but it's great for inspiration, just to give you direction in which to go.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. I mean, I have noticed on LinkedIn, and you and I spend obviously a lot of time on LinkedIn creating content for LinkedIn, is that content creation is hard to sustain. I mean, you have spurts where you're very productive and the ideas are flowing, but once people get busy or distracted or go back to the office, then it's harder to create content, period. And I've noticed a lot of content on LinkedIn recently is, it almost looks like people are doing it because they feel they have to do it, as opposed to they have something to say, they've got some good ideas. And any tools that can inspire you to spark ideas are a good thing, because content for the sake of content has no value, and you're not doing anything productive. You're just filling space, and that doesn't get you anywhere.
Yeah, I mean, just I mean, it's okay when they say, you need to post every day. Like the people who have done the most have posted every day, but it doesn't relate to the business results. You don't need to post every day to get business results. Those are different things. But tell me, is that the reason why you started your podcast? Has your background as tech journalist something to do with it as well?
Yeah. So I before I got into consulting, I was a journalist for 15 years. I was a newspaper journalist
Sure,
for
that's a long time.
a long time for two of Canada's biggest newspapers, the Globe and Mail and National Post. Covered technology. Interviewing people is very natural to me. I mean, I've done my 10,000 hours, as Malcolm Gladwell says. I like talking to people. I'm curious about a lot of different things. And it was interesting because I looked at a podcast for a couple of years and backed off because that's too hard and there's too many technical things involved and it's going to take too much time and work. And then the barriers to entry got lower and lower. And last May or June, I jumped into the podcast, jumped on the podcast bandwagon, and it's probably been the best thing that I've done professionally. The benefits are so massive that I would recommend it to anybody. And the one thing that's interesting about podcasts, it has nothing to do with the number of downloads or the number of streams that your podcast gets. I mean, that's a great vanity metric. It's being able to approach people and say, do you want to have a half hour, 45-minute conversation with me? And these are people that you may look up to. They may be potential customers. They may be customers. They may be partners. And since I've been doing the podcast, I don't think I've had one person turn me down. No, one person turned me down. That was Scott Galloway, who probably gets to be asked on a lot of podcasts. But
You got a response at least.
I got a response.
I didn't reach out, but I was trying to reach out different people, like the rapper, or somebody who are totally out of the box, and it's hard to reach out through them through all that noise.
Yeah. I mean, the person that actually, the most surprising person who said yes was Chris Walker, who you know, who's a very well-known B2B marketer. He must be in tremendous demand in terms as a speaker and a podcast guest. And he turned around and said, sure, you want to be on I'll be on your podcast. I was like, whoa, okay. But he recognizes the value of podcasting and what he's does that, and I think a lot of marketers should do is when you appear on a podcast, you should as a guest, that's marketing for you, and you should take that video and you should repurpose it for your own marketing. And he does a beautiful job by taking video clips of himself talking about a specific topic, and he posts them on LinkedIn. At first I thought, well, he's just recording them himself, and all he was doing was answering questions. And
Yeah.
I thought that was like a brilliant hack. But you know, podcasts, it's conversations, it's connections, it's the ability to, you know, pick people's brains, really smart people. You can ask them about specific topics about, you know, if you're, you know, if you want to know about ABM or SEO or content, people are happy to tell you what they know. And if anything, it's a free 30, 45-minute consulting session. It's beautiful.
Yeah, and you have 50 minutes before recording, you have 50 minutes after recording usually. So you can tell a lot and get into conversations, at least come up with what's the next step.
Yeah, and a lot of what B2B sales has to do with is relationships. Like you're trying to establish a rapport, you're trying to get people to trust you and to like you. And a podcast conversation is a great way of going from here to all the way up to here. And that's why I think most, if not every B2B company should have a podcast.
Yeah, I agree. There are so many things, so many benefits that they can get, and it's all upstream. There are no downstreams. Like even if you are not good as a host or as a speaker, like you will improve that. That's upstream as well. And when we started like Funky Marketing Show, I was mostly asking people about their journey. That's I just wanted to get to know people, and I was asking them about the journey, about different things. And now we are in different stages. Now we're more talking about about the state of the industry, about the expertise, about different things. So it's changeable. It's a thing that is flexible. It goes this way, go that way. All depends where you are as a person, as a company, and what you want to achieve.
Well, the one thing about marketing is that new things can be intimidating. A podcast can be a scary proposition. Writing content, doing SEO or SEM, and or writing LinkedIn posts on a regular basis. But the only way you're going to get better marketing is just by doing it. And you're going to make mistakes, and some things that you do are not going to be very good. But over time you will improve. You'll read, you'll watch other people, you'll practice, you'll find things that work and find things that don't work. And I think that's the key to being a marketer is you've constantly got to evolve and grow and improve. Because otherwise, if you just if you just stay who you are and what you do, then the world's going to pass you by. New marketing is going to happen, and you're not going to have the skill set or the experience to participate in the new wave of marketing. I mean, in the intro today, you talked about new B2B marketing, and B2B marketing is changing, and we have to change with it.
Yeah, that's totally true. So tell me, when you're working with companies, what are some things that you are seeing? You're working with lots of them, me as well. So I'm interested in your take. Like, what's the situation when you come in as a consultant or as a CMO? Like, what's the situation in the company, and what are like things that you focus on the most?
When clients approach me, it's usually with a problem. You hire a marketing consultant because something's not going right. You never hire a marketing consultant because everything's awesome, sales are great, our marketing's fantastic. They don't need you. You hire a marketing consultant because they're going to fill a gap strategically or tactically. So what happens is someone comes to me and says our website is broken, or we don't have enough content marketing. Um, our SEO is we're not ranking as high as the competition. So it's something. Inevitably, those are just symptoms of a bigger problem. And where I start with all my clients is positioning, strategic positioning, which is a very simple proposition. It's what you do, who you serve, why what you do matters to them, what are the benefits, and how you're unique. And what I find with a lot of B2B SaaS companies, a lot of B2B companies, is that they haven't got their positioning down. And if you
Hmm.
don't have that crystal clear, then it's hard to differentiate yourself from the competition. And in every market, there are dozens, if not hundreds of companies that look like you, talk like you, walk like you, offer the same features and benefits and at the same prices. And so the way that you outflank the competition is you differentiate yourself in some way. And that's about positioning. I was reading a post this morning by Casey Graham, who's the CEO of Gravy, and he asked a simple question about what should a B2B SaaS homepage
Yeah, I
do?
saw that.
And my answer was, it's simple. Basically, be crystal clear right away. What do you do? Who do you serve? And why does it matter to them? That's it. But you visit a lot of B2B SaaS websites and you look at the homepage and you go, I have no idea what this company does. There's a lot of,
Plus, the design is almost the same everywhere. The
yeah, I mean,
templates.
yeah, when everyone's using templates these days, but you know, if you don't stand out, and if there's a bit of confusion about whether you do a CRM for, I don't know, security companies, and if it's not for me, I'm going to click away right away. People, they won't do any work. They're lazy. If there's not instant gratification or instant results, then they just go back to Google and do another search and you're done. So you've got one shot in terms of your website making an impact, and positioning has to be on. And the other benefits about positioning is that it does sort of create that underlying story for all your sales and marketing activities. So your positioning will work its way through your content marketing, through your sales collateral, through your demos, through your on-stage demonstrations. All the things that you want to communicate to the world will all come back to how strong and clear your positioning is. And that's where I start with all my clients, every single one. Some of them believe that the position is good. And so what I do is I start with positioning, which is your story. And then I work on, so where do you tell your story? Like, and who do you tell it to, which is strategy. And then it's the actual storytelling, which is tactical execution in whatever form you want to. And that's sort of the approach that I'm taking to all my clients these days. And it's just the fundamentals. Get them in place, and then you can do whatever you want. You can do whatever marketing experiments you want to, but unless you have the fundamentals in place, you won't be successful.
Yeah, totally agree. I mean, that's where it go. It's easy to see from that point. When you know the positioning, who you are, who you serve. Like that was also interesting. I was doing a training on creating LinkedIn Hub inside the company, huge company, Russian one here in Serbia. Oil and gas company, and I heard one of the questions was like, whom do you serve? I asked the people in marketing. I had all three departments of internal marketing, external, and PR. And I asked them, and they were like, "It's offensive to ask me something like that." And I said, "Okay, but you serve somebody. It can be yourself, but you definitely serve. We all serve somebody." And it was interesting because doing those kind of things, especially if you are starting, if you're expecting people to be active on social media in front of the company, you gotta start from themselves. We can call that popular psychology or whatever, but they need to ask themselves questions that have never asked themselves before. Usually that's the case. They say, I never ask myself, like, why am I in this company? Like, what's my goal inside the company? What's my goal overall? Are mine and company's goal aligned? Those kind of things. And when they think about it, then it's a little bit different. They know the perspective.
What I do find interesting is that there's such a focus on technology and tools, but I feel that the pendulum is coming back to the fundamentals,
Mm-hmm.
positioning. And one of the big things that I see a lot these days, a lot of marketers write about, is customer insight, customer interviews, knowing who your customer is. And it's interesting that you asked that question of the Russian company, because I think a lot of marketers don't know who their customers are. They don't really understand them in depth to truly know, what their motivations are, their problems, their aspirations, their goals, what their day-to-day work lives are like. And without that information, you're kind of operating with one hand tied behind your back. You're making educated guesses as opposed to specifically knowing that if we do this type of marketing with these themes or these stories, that it's going to resonate because it reflects what our customers or prospects want. And Is it because marketers are lazy? Maybe. Maybe some of them just don't want to get out there and go through the hassle of talking to customers. Maybe they just don't understand the importance of customer insight. But I think fundamentally you should be talking to your customers all the time. Like and going back to your question about podcasts are a great way to talk to your customers. It's a carrot, right? As opposed to like, do you want to spend 30 minutes talking to me, just giving me all the information about how I can do my job better? Or do you want to spend 30 minutes on a podcast with me so that we can share to the world how smart you are because we're doing business together? Like, it's a no-brainer, right? So
Yeah.
the more you know about your customers, the better. And the simple thing is talk to them. That is marketing 101.
Yeah, and so many people forget, like they're marketeers. They say, it's hard. How can I get, the customers? How can I talk to them? We don't record the calls. Like, I need help with that. I cannot go offline to them and, just have a conversation. But like, for example, if you're going after CMOs or CFOs or basically anybody today, all of those positions have a podcast when they are guests. You don't need to host them themselves. You can find somebody else that does that and find out all kind of stuff, not only business related, but also like stuff about life. There's a podcast that Kyle Lacey did when he talked about marketing leaders about difficulties in their life, about psychology, about life, raising kids, moving from one place to another, like so many information. If I want to go and pitch one of them with anything, like I can find so many information that and it gets us back to the thing that you mentioned with Casey Graham. Like you can use their words, those conversations to have you know a clear message of what you do and how you help them.
Yeah, and it's not talking to customers, getting insight from customers is not complicated. I mean, you look for different ways that you can connect with them. And I think two simple ones is that you go on sales calls with the sales guy. You don't have to actually participate in the call, but
You can listen,
you
yeah.
can listen and you can ask the salespeople to ask them questions on your behalf. So you're getting insight. And that's why sales and marketing should be very coordinated in terms of how they operate. And the other thing is listening to demos, participating in demo calls with salespeople and listen to the questions that prospects are asking, because all that is great insight and fodder for content marketing. If you can write content that answers questions that customers are asking, then you could have endless number of ideas. And those are two super simple ways that you can get customer insight. And yeah, I mean, I think it's just it should be a major activity for all marketers.
Yeah, and like somebody listen to this would say, okay, but those things that you mentioned are just the basics. Like they say to Chris Walker, for example, or somebody else, like, but the foundation is what's the most important. That you are clear about what are, your core values, your culture, who you are going after, and what you are trying to do with them.
Yeah, I mean, I think that a lot of marketers get enthralled with different platforms and different tools, and it's all about leveraging them and seeing if they can optimize and improve what they do. And we are the other thing I think is we're very metrics obsessed. It's all about
Hmm.
KPIs. It's all about vanity metrics. And yes, they are indicators of how successful you're doing and how you're performing, but they're not everything. It's part of the equation, but not all the equation. And the only way that you're going to drive better metrics, or the only way that your marketing is going to make an impact, um, you know, from a quantifiable point of view, is by focusing on the fundamentals. And I think, we're shifting gears a little bit here, but you look at the dark social or the dark web and how none of that or very little of that can be measured. And Chris Walker has been waving the flag about dark social for months. And for marketers, that's just doing content that makes an impact and has nothing to do with KPIs. And so to make an impact on the dark web is that you've got to know your customers, and you've got to create marketing that actually causes them to talk to other people, to recommend you in different situations. And it's marketing that works, but we don't have full visibility, so we're afraid of it. But it's here and it's alive and it's a big factor for many marketers.
Yeah, I mean, I think the story is going in the right direction, and actually, if we can find out how marketing can prove that they are actually bringing in value, it can change a lot of stuff. And I think we're on the right way. Like, I think David Cancel from Drift talked about it a lot when marketing was measurable needs because they couldn't measure anything else. But now we can measure lots of stuff. So they can be measured on revenue, they can be measured on different stuff, and it changes the position of marketing becomes part of the decision making process, because basically everybody in the company are related to marketing, and everybody in the company are doing marketing, and it's one part of the company that has a touch point in every department, and that's how it is important.
I mean, the problem with a lot of companies is they operate in silos. Sales is in one silo, marketing is in one silo. They operate in different parts of the office when we did work in the office. And I'm a big believer in sales and marketing being fully integrated and walking in lockstep every step of the way, so that there's a constant feedback loop. Marketing is providing insight and serving the needs of sales, and sales is providing lots of customer and prospect insight to marketing. And then you get better at doing both because you're working together as opposed to working in different spheres. And yeah, you're right about marketing. Marketing needs to be at the table. It needs to touch HR, it needs to touch sales, it needs to touch, product marketing and product dev. And the best companies have a very holistic view about how they do business.
Yeah, so tell me, when you come to the company, when marketing is just one person, or it's just you bringing in one person to help you with. They have sales. How do you go with that? Do you align marketing with sales goals firstly to kind of learn, what are the goals, what is sales doing, or you have any other methods?
Well, to start, you essentially want to know what kind of marketing and sales are doing right now. That's step one, and what's
Mm-hmm.
working and what's not. Because many organizations, they're doing sales, and most of the companies that I work with have sales, so something's working. They're attracting customers. So what is it that sales is doing that is effectively bringing people on? And it's interesting because when a company is not doing much marketing, then is it the product that's working? Do they have really good salespeople? Do they have some collateral that's super effective and that resonates? Are they going to conferences, for example, and that's where they're getting most of the leads? Because that's what you have to do initially, because you have to find the strength within the organization, and the strength can be the product. And the product is simply so good that people buy it regardless of the fact there's no marketing. So what you can do in that situation is you can just improve what they've already got, improve the positioning and the messaging to amplify the value of the product, or optimize some of the sales collateral, sales decks, sales videos, the demos they're doing. So you basically want to take what's good and make it better. And the second thing is that you want to look at gaps. What are their sales and marketing gaps? What are they not doing? Where are opportunities for them to move the needle? And I think that's one of the things that is important with a lot of smaller companies, is that you can't be all things to all people out of the gate. You've got to do a few things and do them really well. And as important, those things have got to make an impact. They've got to validate themselves or deliver ROI in the short term. So, for example, if you went into a situation with a company that's not doing much content marketing, what you could do is you could develop a really good ebook, something that delivers thought leadership and insight, and then develop a drip marketing campaign and a landing page to drive distribution and get some kind of lead gen going. And that could be just one piece that you do that's a quick win. Like for a
Yeah,
marketer.
yeah. No, I'm laughing because that's what I've done with Funky Marketing. Just one 30 pages strategic ebook, simple landing page where it starts. Download it, and then basically they can implement it themselves, or they get 5 emails when we go deeper into that, and they can just go and schedule a strategic call with me.
Yeah, and I like things like I like doing overview videos, like those 60-second,
Mm-hmm.
90-second overview videos. Again, low hanging fruit. You can use it on LinkedIn, you can use it on YouTube, you can use it on Twitter, you can use it on your website, you can use it on sales calls. nurturing calls. I mean, again, like quick wins, because companies that don't do a lot of marketing or just getting into marketing, they're skeptical. Like, it's a bit of a leap of faith for them to hire a marketing consultant or do marketing, period. And so if you can show them right off the get-go, hey, we did this, it made this impact, they feel more confident about marketing. And that's the number one thing. If they trust you and they feel confident that you're doing the right things, then they'll get more, then their approach to marketing will change. So for smaller companies, quick wins are important, but it's also important to get the fundamentals right. So buyer personas, positioning, putting together a marketing plan. It doesn't have to be terribly detailed. It just has to create that roadmap. Okay, we're going to do these things because they matter for our target audiences. And I'm a big believer in less is more. So it's better to do a few things or focus on a few channels and do them really well, as opposed to try to be everywhere, which is what a lot of companies try to do. And then they end up doing it in very mediocre ways. And then they get disappointed with marketing and they stop. And then that's the ultimate failure. So you have to be pragmatic, but at the same time, you have to recognize that marketing needs to deliver results. And that's our job as marketers.
Yeah, I totally agree. Um, and I mean, just listening to you, I was thinking about a few companies we're working at the moment. They no have never had marketing, never had HR, those kind of things. IT companies existing for 20 years, and you need to go slow. We kind of always want to do fast, and
Mm-hmm.
go and do like we are the highway there, like the small car over there that is not for ready for the highway yet, and we need to lower the speed and go at the speed that they can function with, they can understand.
Yeah, that's a great point, because as an agency or a consultant, there's an inherent pressure to perform.
Mm-hmm.
We feel that, they picked us for a reason. We should deliver results like as fast as possible. So our default is to just go fast, fast, fast. And what I found, what's interesting is I'll try to do things like before I would have tried to, I tried to, all right, like let's say I'm doing something and I do it the next day, right? They're not ready for it. Like they just don't have the cycles or the time to look at it. But if I had waited like 4 or 5 days for them to look at it, to give it to them, they'd be ready for it. So you're right. I mean, one of the things about working with external marketers is you have to establish the terms of engagement. You have to understand, like, what does your customer want? When do they want it to happen? And what does success look like to them? And those are super important, because if you're not aligned on the basics of a marketing engagement, then it's not going to work. You're not going to create that great partnership. So marketing really has to do with, being as clear as possible what expectations are and what's important to them, because ultimately your job is to serve them in the ways that work for them, not ways that work for us. And that's an important distinction.
Yeah, looking from that perspective, and being a consultant, maybe you can tell the people listening, how they can choose the right consultant or the right CMO, because that's the reverse process, because they need to choose somebody who fits their needs.
That is a huge question, and I actually recently did a podcast with a guy named Kevin Whalen, because we were just talking about that topic. A month ago, I lost a really big client. I just got them. We were 6 weeks into the engagement, and we decided to part ways for a variety of reasons. And it did cause me to think about, so did they make a mistake? Did I make a mistake in agreeing to the engagement? And the key to hiring the right marketing consultant or agency is really spending the time to understand what you're looking to do, when you're looking to do it, and what success looks like. Those are the fundamentals. And it really is a negotiation, even before you agree to work together, is that you really have to, both sides have to push hard on, does this make sense? Do you really need what we're offering? Can we serve you in the ways that you need, or the things that you want? And in some respects, Kevin made an interesting point, is that sometimes you have to basically push back and say, I don't think we should work together. Because when a consultant says that, the client, it forces the client to essentially say, well, no, 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 this is what I want. And the more clear they get about what they really want, then the better you can help them. So if a company comes to you and says, our website sucks, then can you help fix our website? That's not, and you can't say yes to that because you don't know what the problem is. And then the engagement won't work. So you have to invest the time and talk to different people, but be crystal clear about like what is it that you want to happen, and make sure that the person has a track record, has worked with companies like yours, has been successful in doing the things that you need them to do. And it just takes time. And I just don't think you should rush into anything when it comes to hiring a marketing person or a salesperson for that matter.
Yeah, totally agree. I had some situation like that as well because like I'm totally open and direct. And when I give feedback, okay, I give feedback one on one. I'm not going to give you feedback in front of the whole team. It will be in email or conversation one on one. But like, and we in Serbia here are kind of the same as Americans, very open, direct. And we had a client from Switzerland. They are totally opposite of that. Even though I give them feedback in the email one on one, no, they don't want the open confrontation anytime. And I don't want to work like that. So it's good for both sides. But could I communicate that before? Probably yes. Could I have asked that before? Yes. So now, like when we start, I said like, why do you want to work with us? Because we're different. I want to do different things. I want to differentiate. That's kind of the stuff that I love. That's kind of the stuff that my team likes to do. So are we the right fit? Or do you want to keep safe and do something very slow? Then maybe we are not the right fit.
Well, I think the key to running a marketing agency or consultancy is recognizing that it's a two-way street between the client and you. Like they're hiring you, but you're also hiring them. So it's not them deciding, oh, I want to work with Funky Marketing because I've heard a lot about them and they seem to have a good track record. It also comes back to, do I want to work with this company? Do their needs, their values, their approach, the way that they communicate, does that align with successful engagements? And it's a marriage. Like you're entering into what would be a long-term partnership, and you're not going to date someone who has different values to you, or has different, they behave differently. You want someone that you trust, someone that you like, someone that you can see working together. And that's a key part of the process, is both sides have to decide, is this going to work for us? Is this a good fit? And then you can move forward and hopefully be more successful. But yeah, it's complicated, and not all engagements work out. I mean, I wish that every single client I had was successful, but for a variety of reasons, they don't work. And this client, I saw the red flags when we were talking about working together, and I chose to ignore them because the company was doing some really exciting things. But in the end, it just didn't work out the way that I wanted.
Yeah, I think that's the whole other conversations, talking about negotiating with a potential client, sending an offer and everything. I mean, that can be a good topic for us to have another conversation in the future. But tell me, we are all in B2B focused on LinkedIn. What are some things that you can tell me of the way you're using the platform to kind of, show what you're all about, get the clients to just connect with people?
So LinkedIn is a great place to be as a B2B marketer. We all know that, where everyone spends a lot of time there. But I think that it comes down to 4 C's, right? The first one is content. So you have to create content on a regular basis, or you should create content on a regular basis. And as you said earlier, it doesn't have to be every single day. But if you've got things to say and you think they're going to add value, then you can write as often as you want. So that's number one. Number two is comments. Comments are as powerful or even more powerful than content, because you're engaging with other people, you're sparking relationships, you're sharing insight. That can help you market at scale. And you should be commenting on a regular basis and not every day. You don't have to post every day, but you should comment every day. So that's number two. Number three is obviously connections, and connecting with people that you think are going to matter to you, people who could be interesting and you want them to be part of your network. So you should be actively looking for connections and expanding your network, because that's just basic, business development marketing 101. And the most important thing, and the one that doesn't get happen enough, is conversations, is taking the leap from connections to conversations. And we don't do that enough, but that's where the opportunities happen. That's when the real biz dev and relationships emerge. And it's just a matter of connecting with someone, commenting on their, seeing them comment on your content, and just reaching out, sending them a note and saying, hey, listen, love your insight on content marketing, would love to jump on a call and compare notes. And again, I rarely get turned down by people when I do that. People are very open these days to having conversations and exchanging ideas. I mean, most of us are still working from home. We've got the latitude to have these side conversations because the boss isn't looking over our shoulder, and we don't have to be in meetings all the time. But people shouldn't be afraid of it. You should step up. And if you're going to really leverage the power of LinkedIn, then you should be driving as many conversations as possible. I've had about more than 150 over the last 18 months. It's just part of how I use LinkedIn. But if you're not using LinkedIn and you want to get started, I would just start commenting other people's posts. That's the easiest way to get going.
Yeah, I tell this example a lot. I had a friend who was, wasn't in the right place, psychologically. So he wasn't inspired to come up with a post or to write something, but he wanted to give value to people. So he spent 6 months just commenting on the people. And then basically after 6 months, he created a Serbian tech community out of the people he connected with. That's just how it goes. And I constantly keep reminding myself of that example because, and you mentioned one thing, like after being engaged in the comments, like relationship happens in the DMs when
Right.
you or on the calls or however it is, but you need to reach out to people or to respond to those that reach out for you. And I think that's the part where marketing folks needs to learn from salespeople to kind of be more proactive. And that's actually why we also are using relationship centric marketing, because like Netflix, Airbnb are going halfway to meet the customers, and other brands are just falling behind waiting for customers to come to them. And it's the same in this case. You need to go after relationships to seek, but to do it not for trying to sell to somebody, which is what people are doing these days, but just to have an open heart, being kind, and just like honestly say, hey man, I just want to get to know you.
I mean, if you're genuine, if you're not trying to sell, because that's the biggest faux pas. If you're trying to sell, then conversations are great things. And one of the things that I think about when it comes to LinkedIn is that you and I are part of the LinkedIn sort of hardcore group, and we believe in it, we participate, we engage. But there's still a lot of people who are very skeptical or reluctant to leverage LinkedIn. They just don't understand that the platform has changed. It's no longer this HR driven platform. It really is about content and community and conversations. But a lot of marketers and a lot of companies are still on the sidelines. They just don't understand how effective the platform can be. And I think that's a mistake. So my advice to any B2B SaaS company is that your people have to be leveraging LinkedIn. You have to be leveraging LinkedIn because, it's become the way, as powerful as conferences and content marketing. It's got to be part of your marketing and sales, foundation.
I mean, it's free, and it's like having to speak at a conference of like 3 million people in a year are seeing your content. And
Yeah.
it's for free. You just post and engage with people, and it happens. So that's not something that's going to last for a much long period of time.
Yeah. I mean, to give you some context, I mean, before LinkedIn, before COVID, my marketing for my business was coffee meetings, which, they're 2 hours of fare. You got to go and reach out to somebody, then you got to travel there, you're going to travel back. Or I went to conferences and I wandered around, and maybe I spoke at a conference, but I wandered around looking for people to talk to. Totally ineffective, and people would only see me when I was out there, but on LinkedIn, you're out there every single day. Like, people see you and read what you're writing or read what you're commenting on every single day. And you can market at scale. Like, that's the most amazing thing, is you're marketing to a global audience. I mean, I've never had clients outside of Canada or outside of Toronto before, and now I'm doing business in lots of different places, and that's only because of LinkedIn.
And now you connect with offline conferences coming back. Like I had this situation, people recognize me at the conference. like, hey, Nemanja, it's Maya from LinkedIn. I said,
Yeah.
who the hell is Maya? Like,
Right.
I have more than 20,000 people over there, but like, and then I search for her, and like, she doesn't wear glasses, has totally different color of her hair, and I'm like, you're a different person on LinkedIn. Come on, but like, people recognize you, and
Yeah.
it's easy. Then it makes easier to to start conversations. Even people approach you to start conversations themselves, and it's sort of like this thing that we are talking about, like what marketing should do for sales and for making the sales easier. Create awareness, create a brand, and then when sales reach out, it's much easier to kind of sell to somebody that knows who you are.
Yeah. I mean, the best marketing happens. I mean, there's a lot to be said for cold outreach and
Hmm.
and cold calling. But the best marketing happens when you've already warmed up the audience. They already know who you are. They already know what you think, what you do. They have a sense of your personality. So when you do reach out to them, or they may reach out to you, that relationship has already started. You haven't even tried. In some cases, you're just doing what you're doing, but you've built brand awareness, and that's good sales. That's good marketing. And I think whether you're using LinkedIn or Twitter or TikTok or YouTube, whatever you want to do, it's all about you get your message out there, get your brand out there, and it makes conversations so much easier.
I agree. Not to take you much longer, I want to respect your time. So tell me, and tell the people listening, what is something that we didn't say that you feel like they need to know, or what's one take that they can get out of the episode?
I think that 2022 is really a move back to fundamentals of marketing and sales. I think that conversations, connections, content, um, focusing on what matters, being crystal clear about who you serve and what you do is going to be increasingly important. Things are getting noisier and busier as people go back to work, as conferences come back. People will like we're in the what we call the attention economy, right? You only have so much attention to spread out to invest. And if you're not standing out from the crowd, if you're not being creative, if you're not taking chances, if you're not experimenting, then you're just going to do what everybody else is doing. And it's easy to go along with the crowd, right? Like the old adage is that no one ever made a mistake by buying IBM, and that's fine. But you won't differentiate yourself, and it's too competitive out there not to take chances and put yourself out there.
Mm, Mark, can you hear me?
I can, yeah.
Yeah. It happened. The Wi-Fi got lost. It's the first time in 55 episodes, but it happened.
No worries. It was just momentarily. It's all good.
Yeah. So where I don't know if we got your last words or no recorded. So maybe you can just repeat what you said.
Sure. So, in terms of what I see happening in 2022 is a real focus on the fundamentals, conversations, content, connections, and a willingness by marketers to experiment, to be bold, to be courageous, to stand out from the crowd. One of the biggest mistakes that a marketer can make is doing what everybody else is doing because it's safe. It's a way not to make a mistake or not to look like you don't know what you're doing. The old adage is that no one ever made a mistake by buying IBM. And that's one way to operate. But if you want to differentiate yourself, you want your brand and you to rise above the noise. And it's going to get increasingly noisy out there as people go back to work and conferences come back and life is normal again. But increasingly, you're going to have to be creative. You're going to have to take chances. You're going to have an appetite for risk. It may make people feel uncomfortable, but that's just part of marketing. A part of what you do has to make you feel uncomfortable, has to push the boundaries. And if you combine that with, the fundamentals of marketing, I think that's a good recipe for success.
I totally agree. That's the great takeaway. And I think people should go back to the beginning of our conversations and just connect the dots from where they're starting, how they create the foundation, how they choose the right people to work with, then how to leverage social media today, and basically that's all it takes to start. And then we'll create another episode to help them go to the next level.
Yeah, great. Well, it's been great to be on the podcast. I'm always happy to talk about marketing. Always looking for ways to provide insight about how B2B SaaS companies can do better marketing.
Yeah, guys, feel free to connect with Mark on LinkedIn, on Twitter. Mark, tell the guys how your podcast is named and where they can find it.
So the podcast is called Marketing Spark. You can search on Apple or Spotify or any of the major podcast platforms. My website is marketingspark.co. My clients are B2B SaaS companies, 5 million, mostly in $5 million or less. They're looking to, with help with the fundamentals and establishing a marketing foundation and a marketing engine. My areas of expertise are around positioning, planning, and content-driven strategies. And it's really about helping B2B SaaS companies do marketing right.
Yeah, great. Well, thanks for being on the show. Thanks for taking time. Thanks for always being responsive and being willing to get into the conversations. Guys, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. And as I always say for the end, keep it funky.